Over the past 48 hours, a lot of people have been cheering for the death of journalism. But the decline of journalism is already having a profound and unimaginable impact on our information ecosystem and democracy. I want to share some really important stats with you that I hope we can all think about before gloating about tens of thousands of journalists losing their jobs. First of all, cities and regions with no local news pay higher taxes and have less democratic engagement. Voter turnout is lower in areas without journalists and news organizations. People are less likely to vote down ballot and in midterm elections in areas with fewer news outlets. The fewer journalists covering an election, the more likely it is an incumbent will win. Political polarization among voters increases when newspapers shut down. Businesses and corporate leaders in regions with journalists are more likely to be held accountable for misconduct. When journalists leave a region, labor violations increase across the board. Factories and power plants that are covered by journalists produce 29% less emissions than factories and power plants that don't have any news coverage. Every dollar spent on journalism produces hundreds of dollars in public benefit by exposing corruption and keeping an eye on government spending. Elected leaders who have engaged in wrongdoing resign at higher rates in areas with more journalism coverage. The fewer journalists in a region, the more likely congressional representatives for that region are to vote against the interests of their own constituents. Cities where newspapers have shut down see massive increases in government spending due to lack of oversight. People in regions without news media are more likely to report loneliness, disconnection from community, and diminished local pride. Areas without journalists are less likely to receive federal or state funding in times of crisis. Historians and academics rely on journalists to catalog and contextualize crucial historical events. Political campaign spending and voter outreach is lower in areas with fewer journalists. State, local, and federal lawmakers rely on journalists to expose corruption and educate them about the issues they're writing laws about. Regions without any journalists experience a significant drop in civic engagement. I could go on and on. Journalism undeniably has positive outcomes for democracy, but that doesn't mean that all journalism is inherently good. A huge part of the resentment a lot of people are feeling towards the press these days is due to the harm corporate media has caused various communities. The ways that many reporters stoke outrage, feed extremist ideology, and use their platforms irresponsibly is reprehensible. Local and national media have inflicted enormous harm over the years on Black people, trans people, and other marginalized groups. Corporate media often aligns itself with business interests and political power, or produces sensationalized coverage that emphasizes short-term attention rather than lasting change. And as I've said so many times before, the media is overrun with nepotism, elitism, and hypocrisy. But the vast majority of journalists, especially the ones most likely to be impacted by these recent layoffs, are hardworking, honest people that are trying to speak truth to power on a shoestring salary. And the things that people hate the most about the media are not the fault of the journalists. They're the fault of the billionaires and corporate overlords that treat the news journalism industry as a for-profit enterprise. I would love to see the rise of a robust, worker-owned news journalism landscape. But in the meantime, we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Our whole information system is increasingly polluted with AI content, misinformation, and self-serving lies. As political analyst Jared Yeats Sexton tweeted, "Why do people believe all this crazy stuff?" asks a nation where every industry designed to communicate factual information or teach critical thinking skills has been liquidated by the rich in order to hide what they've done. It's not a coincidence that authoritarianism is growing, as the long plan to destroy education and journalism are coming to fruition after decades of planned alienation, exploitation, and austerity have already wrought unbelievable damage. Just look at the people spending millions of dollars a year to dismantle trust in journalism. Are these the people you think it's a good idea to align yourself with? It's grifters, far-right extremists, billionaires, and political actors who want to take away our rights and dismantle democracy without any oversight. And journalism, for all its flaws, continues to play a crucial role in democracy and our culture. When a tech billionaire or powerful influencer begins operating with impunity, when environmental protections or social programs are eliminated without your knowledge, when you make a dumb decision because you accidentally fell for a conspiracy theory or misinformation online, that is when you'll recognize what we're losing by putting all of these journalists out of work.